And greetings. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast with Todd Erzen and Aaron McIntyre. I'm Steve Deace, brought to you by our friends over at Preborn. This Christmas, you can give the gift of life, and for as little as $28, you can fund an ultrasound that could very well save a child's life today, maybe his or her mama's soul in the process. We've all lived through several election cycles now, where we see what happens when safe, legal, and rare becomes shout your abortion, and the conscience is seared and the heart, like Pharaoh's, is hardened. It becomes a volatile, massive voting bloc that can redirect the entire course of a nation. And that's what happens when people don't want grace and they reject it. And that's what Preborn is offering, both truth and grace. That's why they've been so successful. And that's where your generosity comes in. And that has been so successful the last few years. You guys have poured in enough to save tens of thousands of babies with this partnership between the Blaze and Preborn. So thanks to a special matching gift this time of year, your gift is doubled if you give right now by dialing pound 250 and saying the keyword baby on your mobile phone. Pound 250 and saying the keyword baby on your mobile phone, or go to preborn.com/Steve. That's preborn.com/Steve. Also, if you're looking for the perfect Christmas gift for the lovable patriot that you've yet to buy for, you can, for as little as $8 a month, get him a year-long subscription to Blaze TV. You'll take him or her all the way to the end of next year's crucial midterms and all of the exclusive coverage we're going to have here on Blaze TV. You'll get all of that and all of the other exclusive content we produce each and every day. You can go back and find stuff in the past that maybe you missed and you were interested in watching at the time when you didn't have access, and now you can go back and watch that stuff now. Get $20 off your annual subscription. Again, works out to as little as $8 a month when you go to blazetv.com/Deace and use the code Deace for that discount. blazetv.com/Deace, code Deace for the discount. Really cool event last night with Chevy Chase.
Oh, yeah.
It was very cool. Packed house. Man, he's not looking good.
Oh, he's old.
He's 82. His wife is traveling with him. They've been married since 1982, which is that's a long time in any walk of life, but particularly because they also would have gotten married, like that would have been right during the peak years of his career, right? And so they've been together the entire time. Yeah, he can barely walk. He's having a hard time standing up. He was struggling to breathe, to be honest with you. You know, when we walked out of there, my wife was like, "Listen, just take it from someone who's a wife." And I assess human nature for a living as a therapist. That's a wife very, very concerned about her husband and his health. That being said, he did his best. His memory wasn't. She had to jar his memory several times and finish a few sentences, but every now and then, you know, and more than now and then, the guy we grew up watching was there. And he could not have been, I know his reputation is, a bit of a backside, but at least in the presentation, he could not have been more gracious. And then when those of us who wanted an opportunity to get a picture with him, in that course of time, he couldn't have gotten us out of there fast enough overall. All right, but it was a very, very cool event. And I decided not to do the ball bearings thing because they ended up showing clips of his other films after Christmas Vacation too. And we went through, and there was a whole montage of Fletch, and he said that's the favorite movie that he's ever done, and his favorite character. But I mean, we went through Three Amigos. When Randy Quaid came up, I kind of braced myself a little bit. Because, you know, Randy's gone in the last few years. He's gone pretty right. And then, you know, conspiratorial right, like, Alex Jones has lost his fastball, right? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of braced myself, but oh no, now it's going to get political here, you know. But instead, he just talked about Randy was his favorite co-star to work with. They had tons of fun on the set of all those films, and so I mean, they kept it classy, and it was well done. So if you get a chance to do this around the country and you're a fan of Christmas Vacation, I'd urge you to do it. You would have enjoyed it quite a bit.
Good.
So just wanted to close the loop on that since I teased it at this time yesterday. All right, coming up on today's show, the weekly prophet of woe and lamentation. He'll be joining us in our final segment, Daniel Horowitz. Of course, we're going to start with your buy, sell, or hold submissions here at the bottom of the hour. But until we get there, let's begin as we always do with Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by Dodging a Bullet. The Republican nominee prevailed in Tennessee's 7th Congressional District special election yesterday. Matt Van Epps defeated rabid feminazi Afton Bain, the one who said she hates her own constituents and would rather have power than children. Van Epps won the race by about 9 points in a district President Trump won by 20+ back in 2024. In Congress, there was a flap between Congresswoman Elise Stefanik and Speaker Mike Johnson over the former's insistence on the inclusion of a key provision she wanted attached to the annual Pentagon funding bill. The Congresswoman wanted a measure requiring congressional disclosure when the FBI opens counterintelligence investigations into presidential and federal candidates seeking office. She originally said Johnson stonewalled her efforts, but after a conversation with him and Trump, the measure made it into the bill. Also, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna sounded the alarm bells over a measure she's trying to get passed that could ban stock trading for members of Congress.
Hey everyone, so I just left the floor with Representative Burchett, and after our bipartisan coalition and talking this morning, we have decided, because of a lack of movement from the House of Representatives, to initiate the discharge petition on banning insider trading, meaning it is live now. Now, if leadership wants to put forward a bill that would actually do that and end the corruption, we're all for it, but we're tired of the partisan games. This is the most bipartisan thing in U.S. history, and it's time that the House of Representatives listens to the American people. So it is now live.
Congresswoman Luna trying to scoot around House leadership. Why she needs to do that is a bad sign. In order to enact a ban on stock trading, yikes. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services announced effective immediately they've halted immigration and naturalization processes for individuals originating from 19 countries, including Afghanistan, Burma, Burundi, Chad, Cuba, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Laos, Libya, Republic of Congo, Sierra Leone, Somalia, Sudan, Togo, Turkmenistan, Venezuela, and Yemen. This is in line with and reflects a June executive order from President Trump. On the topic of Somalians, President Trump said during yesterday's cabinet meeting,
Somalians ripped off that state for billions of dollars, billions, every year, billions of dollars, and they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you, okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country's no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I could say that about other countries, too.
And finally, yet another despicable story unfolded out of Little Somalia, a.k.a. Minnesota. A Somalian by the name of Abdulmahat Bilay Mohammed kidnapped and raped a woman he met on Snapchat. The rape happened less than 4 months after he was convicted in 2 unrelated sexual assault cases, including one that involved a 15-year-old girl. Apparently, he served no jail time for those first incidents. Seems like there's been absolutely no good news from Minnesota regarding the Somali population, but surely there are some good apples in there somewhere. Filmmaker and journalist Ami Horowitz visited the Twin Cities to talk to the local Somali population about what they love so much about living in the United States.
This is the Cedar Riverside neighborhood of Minneapolis. Do you feel more comfortable living under American law, or do you feel more comfortable living under Sharia law?
Sharia law. I'm a Muslim. I prefer Sharia law.
Right.
Sharia law, yes.
You prefer Sharia law over American law?
Of course, yeah. Of course, yeah.
And do you find most of your friends feel the same way?
Yeah, of course. If you're Muslim, yeah.
He can make his daughter marry somebody.
Yeah, he can. Yeah, he can. He has the authority, you know?
The authority to do that.
Yeah, to do that, yeah.
So here, how young do you think it's okay?
Yeah, 15.
Is it right to kill somebody who insults Muhammad?
Yeah, because she is just, she hate the religion, I understand. But she shouldn't pick up the prophet, you know?
So you understand why people would want to attack her?
Yeah.
If you had a choice, would you rather live here or would you rather live in a Muslim country?
I'd rather live in a Muslim country with my people.
Would you prefer to live in America or prefer to live in Somalia?
For me, I think it's Somalia.
I would rather live in Somalia. I'm not Americanized. I just speak fluent, and I'm, you know what I mean. I'm articulate, and I can articulate what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean. That's about it. But other than that, I mean, as far as my culture and my preferences and everything, it's still Somali. You know what I mean.
Even though here you have all the freedom and stuff like that.
And even though I have all the freedom,
do you think life might be better in Somalia than here?
Because now you have the
freedom of it, of practicing your religion while working and doing your other things.
Yeah, they can all go back if they want to go back. And that's what happened while we were away.
Aaron's montage brought to you by our friends over at Kexi. This year, give the gift that will not get regifted, and you may not even want to give yourself once you get a hold of them. That's Kexi cookies, and their holiday flavors are out now. I can't give you a review. I have not gotten mine yet, but I'm confident they're great because I've reviewed all their others. All right. Salted caramel, peppermint fudge, and the super popular cinnamon roll. Kexi ships nationwide right to your door, so you don't have to worry about being an Indian giver yourself. Just bypass that. Trust me, you won't be able to buy these, wrap them yourself, and then give them away. You're going to take one look at them and say, never mind. Right? So it's a great gift, but you need to make sure for it to be a gift, you have it shipped directly to the giftee's door. All right? And just remember, their Christmas shipping cutoff is December the 15th. So don't wait. You can use code DACE15 for 15% off your order right now at KEKSI, Kexi.com. KEKSI, Kexi.com. Promo code DACE15 for 15% off your next order at Kexi.com. Let's start with the Somalia stuff. Number one. Say it with me now, boys and girls. Ready? And a 1, and a 2, and a 3. Immigration moratorium. If your political campaign and you're running for office, and this would include even friends of mine, I've even texted some friends of mine that are running for office, think you're stuck in the mud, think your race is stale, I got 2 words for you. Start running on, you ready? Say it with me now. Immigration moratorium. Turns out we need a great reset. Just not the one that they were planning. And it starts with an immigration moratorium. So we can find out what the hell is going on. Immigration moratorium. You look like you want to say something.
Do you think the people that got into Congress to stock trade have it in them to say those 2 words?
I've got to make sure our own audience does first.
Oh, well, hey, man.
I'm talking to the audience first. I got to make sure our own audience does. All right? Because I'm just going to tell you right now, there shouldn't be a single Somali in the country.
Correct.
And I don't have to give you a qualifier, and I'm not offering you one. I don't have to say, I mean, some of my favorite food is Somali. It's not. I wouldn't try it for if you paid me. But there shouldn't be a single Somali in America. A single one. And no previous era of America would have imported this level of third world Islamism into its own country. Just shouldn't be a single one. Doesn't belong here. And here's the thing. The Somalis in that video, they're telling you that. They're the honest ones. They're telling you worldview is destiny. They're telling you you cannot Americanize and bribe them out of their worldview. They're telling you this. Because it seems like we still haven't learned the lessons of post 9/11. This idea that we could go to these Middle Eastern countries, and I say we because I did believe this. I just have a thing in life where I refuse to make the same mistake twice. Any man within the sound of my voice, if you didn't have a dad, let me give you some of the 2 best pieces of dad advice you'll ever get in your life, I promise you, right now. Number 1, solve your problems with aggression. Solve all your problems with aggression. When in doubt, act. And if you're wrong or you acted in haste, it's way easier to make a correction than to let a moment pass and then never get it back again. Solve problems with aggression. Go ask her out now. Go apply for the job now. Go do what you were asked to do now. Go get what you want now. Solve your problems with aggression. That's number 1. Number 2. Learn from your mistakes. Make new mistakes. Not the same ones over and over again. Learn from your mistakes. This is now where I'm going to defend Tucker again. Because what's really unfair is to go back and find the stuff that Tucker said about our Middle East escapades 25 years ago, when he was still the bow-tied libertarian on CNN or whatever that was, and hold that against him for what he's saying now. If you still hold the same views about Middle Eastern and Muslim nation adventurism that you held 25 years ago, you're a bleeping moron. Or, congrats. The amount of shares you own in Raytheon, going to be a nice Christmas at your house. One of the two. How in the world could anyone without a financial vested stake hold the exact same views of Middle Eastern adventurism, Muslim nation adventurism, and be any kind of critical thinker, any kind of person whose soul is not just given over to a cult? How in the world could you still hold the same views after what we went through in the 20 years after 9/11? How is that even possible? It is not. Unless you just have a vested interest. And in that case, hate the game, not the player. I get it. Oh, I mean, you're going to hell anyway. I mean, I'm not defending it, but I get it. Don't mistake getting it for defending it. I get it. I mean, I get you're, a soulless hack who, worships mammon. I get that. I mean, I don't do it myself, but I understand it. I am human. I get the human condition. What I don't understand is the kind of stupidity George Carlin made a career out of mimicking and parroting. Because if you still hold the same views about Middle Eastern adventurism now that you did in 2002, 3, 4, and 5, you're too dumb to procreate. You're too dumb to live, maybe. And if you keep with those views and move to some of those Middle Eastern countries you're in love with, they'll teach you that the hard way. Under no condition should this have been brought into our country. None. We should have learned our lesson. I'm okay with empires. I'm totally fine with empires because I understand the human condition. You're either ruling or getting ruled. That's just humanity. That's the species this side of eternity. So with that said, I'm fine with benevolent empire building. But that would denote that we're actually getting a benefit out of this, right? That the ones that are the superior force, it's their people that are benefiting from said equation, which is why I was totally fine at the time with a war for oil. Completely fine with it. In fact, you and I talked about this. This would have been right with the beginning of our friendship. I was just openly saying, I don't get the complaints about war for oil. Like, I'm not into regime change. You know what I'm into? Oil price change. You like oil price change?
I'd accept it.
And you know what? Who's got one of the largest deposits of oil in our hemisphere right now?
In ours?
Yeah. Venezuela does. So again, are we talking regime change? Or are we talking oil price change? Know what I'm saying, G?
I do.
Can you hear me knocking? Because I'm coming in. All right. Oil price change. Okay. Just say so. Just say we're all consenting adults here. We all know how the babies are made. That's not. Just sit here and pretend we're some kind of prudish, Victorian, society who's got a very seedy red light district underbelly. Let's just all be very honest with each other about who we are and what's going on here. So oil price change, by all means, you can depose Maduro tomorrow on that. I'm in. Totally in. Regime change, though, is something different. See, I thought regime change meant oil price change. That's what I thought it meant. And I'm like, I'm completely in favor of pimping out Iraq for Halliburton. Completely in favor of it. I was just, okay, sounds great to me. Don't have to buy OPEC's money, or oil, don't have to care what these people think. We've got our own little place there. We've got our own little base that borders all these other countries with stealth technology none of them do. And so we can just make Mecca disappear the next time they want to step to us. This sounds like a really good plan to me. I don't know what you thought at the time, but I thought that was the plan. I thought all the stuff the left was accusing us of was true, which is why I was for it. Turns out we weren't really for any of that, which is why Rachel Maddow was at Dick Cheney's funeral 2 weeks ago and not Donald Trump. Turns out we weren't for any of that. Turns out we really were the worst of both worlds. We're going to get accused of being an empire, but we're going to act like naive fools instead. And we really did believe that the angel Gabriel spoke to Muhammad in a cave, like God gave the tablets to Moses at Mount Sinai. We really did believe this. And we really did believe that these people just wanted KFC and 5 for $5 and internet porn every bit as much as we did. We took 20 years learning that lesson very harshly. And just to prove to you we learned it, here's what we did. We imported a bunch of it into our own country. That's what we did. Again, you're either being ruled or you rule. That's just human nature. We live in a sinful, fallen world, not an idealistic one. Which one do you think we are right now, gentlemen? Are we being ruled, or are we ruling? Which one do you think it is? I think it's pretty obvious.
We are the meme. You played yourself.
Yeah,
that's what we are.
Yeah. I mean, that's why Dave Chappelle doesn't need to come back to television. I mean, that's his greatest reoccurring bit, and we're the ultimate. You played yourself. Now, Tennessee 22. I want to switch the topic real quick because I teased this yesterday. So the polling on this turned out to be very wrong, or Trump invested heavily enough to make it wrong in the last week, right? This was nip and tuck until about a week ago. Trump invested heavily in trying to get the vote out as much as he possibly could without being on the ballot himself in the last week. We ended up with turnout around 180,000. I think turnout in the 2022 midterms was 183. So we had almost a midterm election level turnout. This was not a low turnout event. And the Republican ended up winning by 9 points. Now, there are some factors. Just had a good friend of mine who lives near that area send me an email about the amount of attack ads, how the immigration population, just the same thing we were just talking about, all right, all coming in and all voting for Democrats, right? So those things are constants pretty much everywhere now, unfortunately, because we have an invasion because the previous administration were traitors. And that's why we need, say it with me now, immigration moratorium. I would then add a second verse, like the first, closed border. I would do the second one too, okay? But at the very least, we need an immigration moratorium. I don't know how you do a moratorium without a closed border, but I also didn't think that, we'd just go ahead and say, hey, we failed so much with Islam over there, let's just bring it here. I didn't think we'd do that either, but we did, so here we are, Anyway, there were a couple other factors here, though, that are a reoccurring problem. And I didn't want to address these before the election because I definitely didn't want to make it look like I was helping the Democrats in any way, shape, or form. But we continue to have a Trump endorsement problem. This continues to be a problem. And I think I might address it now because, on the brink of Hanukkah, I really don't want Daniel Horowitz to bleed out by asking him to do it, which is what he'll do if I bring this up to him in the final segment of the program. You'll just watch Daniel just... Eight bloodletting nights is what awaits Daniel if I bring this up. So I'm going to bring it up myself. All right. This was a terrible Trump endorsement. I was told, I don't know John Rich, so I did not hear this from him, but I heard this from someone that does know him, the country star who's huge MAGA guy. I was told that he had a candidate in this race lined up, and a lot of the conservatives were lined up behind, the grassroots was lined up behind this candidate. And out of nowhere, Trump came off the top rope and endorsed this Epps guy. And then Rich went to Epps and said, hey, can I get a, and Trump at first was like, well, I guess I didn't know you had a candidate. I'm sorry. Can I get a co-endorsement? Like this is what happened in Arizona. Trump originally endorsed the McCain Rhino. And then Charlie went to Trump on behalf of Andy Biggs and said, hey, we got a better candidate. And Biggs got a co-endorsement, and Biggs is going to end up being the GOP nominee for governor there now next year and may end up being the next governor of Arizona. So my understanding is this is what I was told. And if John says I'm wrong, let me know and I'll come in and correct the record on the show tomorrow. I was told that John made the same request and that was denied. Now, why did the grassroots hate this guy? My understanding is that they consider him, quote, Tennessee's Fauci, that he was Governor Bill Lee's medical policy guy. And he was a frustrating slow play to roll back Fauciism in the state of Tennessee throughout the process. And that's why it took so long for him to gain some traction at all. in a plus 22 district. On top of the fact they have a turnout operation in these special elections. We saw this in 23 and 20 through 23 and 24 until the general election. They were slaughtering us in all these special elections there and then too. They have a turnout operation that we just cannot match. And then, of course, that's, one of the reasons why they murdered Charlie, because he was actually creating the very turnout operation that would match them. That's another reason why the devil murdered him. But so there's an on the ground advantage there, but that already and everywhere there's a special election. I mean, we've lost a special election too here even in Iowa in red places during this year. But there's an added factor here where this guy was just considered a terrible candidate, this Epps guy by our base. And if not for Trump essentially just going all in here in the final week, he probably loses. All right, we're up against the clock. I wanted to address the discharge petition too, but that's kind of inside baseball stuff, so we'll leave that alone for now. I want to get you guys' take on what I've said so far.
Just as a quick reminder of what you discussed yesterday in terms of they're not like us, the Nashville precinct, which this entire district butts up to, it's west of Nashville, but it has part of Nashville.
Yeah. This is in the note I got from my friend, what I think you're about to say, so go ahead.
It's still voted for the woman who says, I hate you.
Yeah.
They're not like us. They are a cult. And it's a cult that has every intention of outlasting you. And oftentimes they're right. We totally have to change our game. We've got to find the volume button and turn it up. Otherwise, our children are going to be ruled by those Somalis.
By the way, what other city has a significant Somali presence? Nashville does. Aaron.
Satan's Youth Ministry. This is the public education system that we've talked about ad nauseum. And why did they turn it into Satan's Youth Ministry? Is because the old adage of, well, we'll just have more babies than you do. Well, that was kind of true, at least for a time. And even if you look at the birth rates amongst conservative identifying women versus liberal identifying women, it's still a stark difference. But they still needed to address that difference. And that's why they co-opted first. One of the first institutions through Gramsci's March Through the Institutions was the educational institution. Whether it was because that march wasn't going fast enough, the hegemony wasn't happening fast enough, or because they felt threatened, they needed to open up a new wave of trying to replace people like you and I listening or talking on this program. And that's where the Great Replacement came in to play. You hear somebody say, like you heard some of those Somalians say, I don't like it here. I don't want to be here. I want to be back home.
Let's grant the Christmas wish.
I don't like it here. I don't want to be here. I want to be back home. What does that sound like? If it was in any other context, I don't like it here in this country. I don't want to be here in this country. I want to go home. That sounds like slavery to me. Now, there's some other complications there. I'm sure they're saying that somewhat tongue-in-cheek. But that's just, that alone should dispel any notion that immigration is some sort of, well, we got to have them here to do the jobs Americans don't want to do. That is chattel. Okay? At best, that's chattel. Slavery. With, a paycheck attached to it. A very small paycheck attached to it. Which, as President Trump pointed out, 88%, at least in Minnesota, taking advantage of welfare programs. This is bass-ackwards, upside down, and it was always meant to be that way. Chattel slavery on one hand, and a way to replace people like you and I on another hand. That's the dual purposes of the very cult that Todd just talked about.
Preach, preach, preach. Which is why, one more time for the folks in the back, immigration moratorium. Learn it. Live it. Love it. Hey, if you have been struggling with chronic pain, especially now, folks, as we get into post-indulgence season, and we're kind of at that stage of holiday binging where you're like, it's all right because I've got this New Year's resolution teed up here as soon as the holidays are over. Now, here's the thing. Take it from someone, though, who has gone from morbidly obese and 400 pounds to where I am now and understands all the aches and pains that go with that, all the atrophied muscles and everything else. Thankfully, when I first started getting fit and working out and exercising again in my late 30s, thankfully, it was with a guy who, my old buddy Jake, who is a big believer in preventative health, which has become a big industry now, but 10, 12, 15 years ago was still kind of considered fringy and kooky along with, you anti-vaxxers over there, Todd.
Yep.
Right? And so a lot of the kinds of things that Chirp offers were not available back then. And now they are. And these are the kinds of things that are going to help you stay active, right? Learn what the term trigger point means and some of these things. Going to help you to stay active when you decide, hey, it's time for me to get into shape. I'm convicted, right? I got to be a good steward of the body the Lord has given me. And our friends at Chirp can help you do that. Their mission is simple: to bring relief to as many people as possible so that you can feel better, restore your energy. They make self-care simple with doctor-trusted, FDA-cleared devices that give you the same techniques used in clinical treatments, but without all the expensive appointments, alignment issues, neck issues. The Chirp Contour will help you with that, all right? You want to help with aches, pains, nerves. That's where the Halo will come in, and Aaron will tell you that he has seen great results with that. Just everyday aches and pains, trigger points, right? The rolling power massager. I've used the mini version. I love how I feel with that, right? These are things that can be very helpful to you because your body's going to fight you when you first start. Just going to tell you that up front. Your body's going to fight you, right? Especially as we get older. Talk to people who have been fit most of their lives. Todd's been fit and active most of his life. Man, you just get to a certain age, you were fighting the back aches most of this summer, were you not? Okay.
I got old this year, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so I mean, this stuff helps. It really does. All right, this kind of stuff is part of my everyday regimen. All right, so go to gochirp.com/Steve. That's CHIRP, gochirp.com/Steve. You get free shipping on every order right now at gochirp.com/Steve with the promo code Steve at gochirp.com/Steve. All right, it's a little inside baseball, but I feel kind of compelled since I did tease it before the break. And I do think it's the kind of inside baseball that will help you understand the overall political landscape heading into next year's midterms. All right. So Aaron used a term in his montage called a discharge petition. And I know a lot of you guys are very well informed and you've heard of this before, but you may not necessarily know what it is or maybe more precisely what it means. Right. And so when you cannot get a bill, all right, so the way that legislation works in a state house or in the House of Representatives in D.C. Is first the bill gets assigned to a committee. Someone files a bill, collects as many co-sponsors as they can to give it credibility, and it goes to a committee. The members of that committee vote whether or not for that bill to then see the floor and be voted on by the larger body. If you cannot, so that's where the phrase died in committee or killed in committee comes from. You could not get the votes in that committee to get that bill to the floor. The majority party always has, well, I guess except in the state of Texas, the majority party, where Republicans apparently are giving Democrats all kinds of committee controls, but the majority party is supposed to have, which actually proves my point. If Republicans can give Democrats control of committees in Texas's legislature, it just goes to prove what I'm telling you is right, because they have the power to do that. The majority party determines the makeup of all these committees, who's on them, who chairs them for their side, and then who chairs them if they're the majority, and then how many people are on these committees. And they almost will always, unless it's Texas Republicans, make sure that they have the majority on every single committee. So think of a partnership that you're in. There are certain things that are kind of basic to that partnership being functional, right? And if you can't agree on those things, and one of the partners feels like they have to go around the other partner to make something they view as essential happen, does that speak well of that relationship typically?
No.
No. So when something gets killed in committee, you can still try to bring it up to the floor with what is called a discharge petition. And I'm somebody that's done a few of these in the Iowa legislature. Okay. So I've got a little familiarity with this, and against my own Republican majority, because they didn't want to give us a vote on life at conception. It's extraordinarily hard to get a discharge petition approved. Extraordinarily hard. Why? Because for a majority, the partnership of that majority party, the most fundamental duty, activity, power it has is what gets voted on, or what's often referred to as the agenda. If a political party claims to have a majority but loses control of the agenda, it's just a majority in name only. They don't have control. Which is why whenever you bring a discharge petition, and again, I've seen some things, okay, my own experience in this realm. Whenever you bring a discharge petition, typically the party powers that be, even people that don't like one another within that structure, will align against you to stop you. Because if you lose control of the agenda, like think of the mob. Everybody knows so-and-so is Sal over here is a snitch. If the Godfather just lets Sal continue to snitch on everybody, what does that do to Sal and to the Godfather? What does that do to his credibility in that post and position?
It's basically viewed as a vote of no confidence.
Correct. You're at that point now. Everybody starts scheming for how they're going to take your spot.
Right.
Okay. You have lost control of your organization, and that's what discharge petitions signify: a loss of control of the organization. You are not in control. You may be the majority. You may hold the title of speaker, majority leader, majority whip, but these are letterheads, mere letterheads. You don't have control. If your caucus can go around you, or enough members of your caucus will go around you to unite with the other side to get something done, it is a sign that you are forsaken. You're mortally wounded as a leader. Dead man walking, clock is ticking. This now, what Anna Paulina Luna is doing on the stock trading of members of Congress, from what I read today and looking at the numbers, I think this will be a successful discharge petition. And that means enough people sign on to it that it goes to the floor for an overall vote. They already had a successful discharge petition last month on Epstein, which is why everybody from the Trump White House to Speaker Mike and everybody else reversed field on this, because they knew they had lost with the discharge petition. So best now to get on the right side of the issue. And I'm sorry, that was just an utterly needless cell phone by the White House. They were right on that issue from the very beginning, should have just followed through. Took an L there that was completely unnecessary. I mean, there's not much they can do about the Federal Reserve unless Trump wants to go ahead and challenge that he can fire the chairman. There's not much he can do. Which is why you can't take cell phones when you're already fighting against the obstructions that you can't control. And this was a cell phone. They didn't have to do this. And it split their own base to the point that folks like Thomas Massey, that they're trying to primary out of office right now, got enough people to successfully sign a discharge petition, and they didn't have the votes. And they knew they were going to lose once it went to the floor. Because most of the time, a party will not let a bill come out of committee for one of two reasons. The majority party won't. One, it goes against their orthodoxy. Two, it would embarrass them. So apply that to why they didn't let the Epstein thing out of committee, and that had to be discharge petitioned. And you can apply that here to the stock trading thing. It is extraordinary to have one successful discharge petition. And look at the effort that had to be mounted by Massey. Marjorie Taylor Greene was involved in this and several others. I mean, this was a weeks-long campaign that PR battle and everything they waged on this fall. So it's a Herculean task to beat a majority party to get one discharge petition done. Now they're looking at a second, which is why they fought so hard against the first, because as hard as it is to get something done the first time, it gets easier every time after that. Not to mention heading into a midterm election next year, who wants to be on the side? Who wants to run next year for their seat in Congress on? You bet I should be up here and able to just stock trade like HE double hockey sticks with all the insider information I get. Very few people are going to want that attached to them. That's why they didn't want to bring it to the floor. Because they didn't want to force a bunch of people that have been stock trading with you subsidizing their portfolio to then have to expose that. And now they're going to have to. This is when you throw in the fact, and this didn't even make Aaron's montage, but also right before this discharge petition from Anna Paulina Luna yesterday, Elise Stefanik, who's running for governor of New York, one of Trump's favorites, just laid publicly into a blistering critique of Mike Johnson, called him a liar.
No, that was in the montage.
Oh, that was in your montage. My bad. Thank you. Forgive me for that, Aaron. I'm sorry. So some are going to say, hey, we have such a slim majority. And Steve, even you point out how much Republicans really don't agree on what we should do other than just don't be Democrats. And it's very hard to gather this dysfunctional group of people with systemic ideological differences and priorities into a governing force. And I don't disagree with that. That is very true. On the other hand, given that though, if your members can consolidate enough people to pass bills without you see what I'm trying to say? So I don't disagree Mike Johnson's job, even the guy they named the congressional office building after, Sam Rayburn, one of the legendary speakers in American history. Name any great speaker from the 18th, 19th century governing in this environment with a handful majority would be difficult, if we're being honest, right? It would.
Sure.
Okay. But then stop and think about, because that's true, follow me now, because that's true, how wrong do you have to be as a speaker, though, for your members to be able to consolidate enough support behind legislation that your base wants? Anna Paulina Luna is not giving a discharge petition on increase the Obamacare subsidies and the mandates. That's not, is that what she's doing here? No. She's doing something that is what, a 90% issue with our base? Get rid of the stock trading of the members? Minimum 90%, probably? Minimum 90%. The previous one was on what? The Epstein files? What's that? Probably a 90% issue with our base too? Throw it all out there and just start arresting people. I mean, these are not betrayals of orthodoxy. Massey was not out there saying, guys, we haven't printed enough money yet and given away enough bennies to illegal aliens, and that's what I'm going to bring to the floor. That's not what he was doing. He was doing this to do something 90% of our base wants. Anna Paulina Luna is not doing this for more open borders and more government, but for something 90% of our base wants. And that's why Mike Johnson in that crowd, to me, that the excuse of the scant majority is out. Because this isn't Main Street Republican rhinos getting together with Democrats to pass a bunch of left-wing crap our base doesn't want. This is stuff 90% of our base wants, minimum.
We're right back where we were in the same conversation with Dan Bongino yesterday. Mike Johnson is him in this conversation. The wins seem easy. The wins seem to be what the base wants. Why aren't we going for them? The last thing you said yesterday in that conversation, all the answers to that are really, really bad. Mm-hmm. Aren't we in the same place again?
Aaron, your thoughts?
I think that's just kind of the default answer for basically anything politically, especially in Washington these days. Just the explanation is really, really bad. The thing with Elise Stefanik, pardon me if I'm not mistaken, she's not exactly the most right-wing Republican. I mean, she's from New York.
She voted for ENDA, the gay rights holy grail. Yes.
My understanding, this is her description of it, but my understanding, all she wanted in the NDAA, that's the Pentagon funding bill that they do every single year, was a provision that basically says to the FBI, if you're going to investigate federal candidates for office, you have to give a heads up to the people that you're investigating. The people may be caught up, like what we saw. I think this is trying to address what we saw with those senators that were caught up in the Arctic frost investigation who had their phones spied on. That's all she was asking for. And she says she was stonewalled or given the talk to the hand treatment from Mike Johnson. And then once they got together with Johnson and Trump, they were able to get this into the... this is just kind of bare minimum type of stuff. And if Elise Stefanik, not exactly the most right-wing of right-wing people, is out there saying, I can't even get this into an NDAA, I just throw it into the fires from whence it came. It's broken. It's FUBAR. But maybe these discharge petitions will gain popularity in the new year. Hopefully that's the case. Banning congressional stock trading. Guys, that's not just a Republican issue, 90 issue. That's like a Democrat, their base of young people. They want that as well. I mean, it's a slam dunk, layup, whatever analogy, sports analogy you want to use for it. And apparently they just, political games, they can't even get that done. That's just ridiculous. And it's always been that way. There's no good explanations for it.
No. And that's why I wanted to take some time out today to discuss something that is normally an inside baseball thing, parliamentarian kind of stuff that doesn't matter. But in this case, it matters quite a bit. It demonstrates, here's what it also demonstrates. There's a lot of Republicans that are in mortal peril and existential fear in next year's midterm elections and are tired of just sitting around and waiting for leadership to figure stuff out and protect everybody's rear ends. And they're like, listen, man, you can't protect me. You can't defend me. Then I'm just going to do this myself. And that puts in peril Mike Johnson's speakership for sure. All right, back here at Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Alongside Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre, I'm Steve Deace. Let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. Take advantage of that. Steve@stevedeace.com is how you can email the show. Like us on Facebook, me, we, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Don't forget to also subscribe to our new YouTube channel at Deace Show on YouTube. At Deace Show on YouTube. And then finally, if you're a podcast listener, thank you so very much. You can leave us a 5-star review if you don't mind at the podcast platform of your choice. And thanks to the tens of thousands of you that have. You can also hit subscribe, or if you're on Apple iTunes, follow. And that's how you're going to know for sure that every time we do one of these new episodes, it's for sure right there in your podcast feed. And a lot of you have done that too. So thank you very much for each and every one of those. And this part of the show, we want to thank our friends over at Cove Pure. They are responsible for it. This is the water. What do we want to call it, Todd? Filtration?
Yeah.
That's a good way.
There's no reason
okay with
to
that?
be. I was thinking there's any fancier than that.
All right. It's the water filtration device. You put it right there on your counter. All right. Easy to set up, no installation needed. Why did I ask Todd? Because it's at your house.
It is.
Our show Cove Pure is on your counter in your kitchen right now. It looks super sleek, nice. You can look at it right there. It kind of looks like a futuristic Keurig almost, right there on your counter. You get the temperature, the water of your choice, hot, cold, warm, particularly this time of year. You want to, you just got done with a workout, you want some cold water, you get it. You want a hot chocolate, you get that, right?
Yep.
And the water pure, clean. And here's the big thing. Sometimes with these kinds of things, you can taste an aftertaste. Not with the Cove Pure, but don't take my word for it. Let's get the Erzin seal of approval. You guys have had this for what, about 2 months now?
Yeah, I've tried to come at it from every angle, and I don't know if I've mentioned before, like that little girl in that picture, you brought to mind the hot chocolate season.
Yeah.
There's zero reason why your kids, for all the way down to like a 6-year-old, can't just go up there and make their own hot chocolate. It's that easy.
CoPure lab certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants in your water. So that includes stuff like PSAs, pharmaceuticals, fluorides, lead, arsenic. It's the purest water you can get. So if you're looking for a gift that's good for your loved ones and one that's actually they're going to use, make sure you use my link, covepure.com/Steve. And because we partner with them, they're going to give you a special $250 holiday discount. But hurry before the sale ends. That's Cove Pure, just like a cove, COVE, covepure.com/Steve. Again, that's covepure.com/Steve. All right, are we ready?
Launch. Let's do it.
Let's play some buy, sell, or hold. Aaron's got those submissions. Todd and I are, for the first time, about to see them. You guys know the rules of the game. Your submission will prompt either Todd or I to say buy, sell, or hold. However, if you use your hold, you have betrayed the dude code. You have effeminized yourself. You should be ashamed, and you will be shamed and degraded. And that's why, Todders, and if you use your hold today, you are going to be Lindsey Graham's Yule log. It will be you.
Wow, that's bleak.
That is a dark place.
It is.
Indeed. Aaron, fire away.
We'll begin with Jeffy's Dubot, who says college football needs a commissioner vested with a lot of authority to manage the coaching, poaching, and transfer portal drama.
Oh,
100%.
They need Kennesaw Mountain Landis, like it was done in baseball. And the simple fact of the matter, there are very, very few people that are capable of doing that job. I am one of the few.
I love that.
Should have seen that coming. Did not see that coming.
I did not see that coming. And you're right.
Oh, I'm kidding.
After the fact, I should have seen it too, but I didn't see it.
There's way too many. When Steve talks about Christmas slappy, the college football slappies, they can't do it. Even the ones who think they're like somehow like edgy. We told you no, they're all slurpers. They all worship the idol. You need somebody with a proven track record like me. I'll do the job. It'll get cleaned up. We will go back. It'll be beautiful. The most beautiful thing you've ever. How would Donald Trump talk about this? That's me in this job. I can do it, but I'm going to have to treat you like the little children you've become, and you're going to fight back, and I'm just going to have to spank you, and that's just how it's going to be.
I don't even know that I agree with it all. I just liked your answer so much, and I thought it was so over the top insufferable that I admired it. So I'm going to buy.
I can't be more over the top insufferable than college football.
Fair. That's why I'm buying.
And it's average hand.
That's why I'm buying.
It's impossible.
I don't disagree with that. I don't. But I also admire the fact that I know you well enough to know you're going to try.
Oh my goodness. It would be.
Todd, what is that gift? I've never seen Fury Road. What Fury Road is what? That's what series?
Mad Max?
Mad Max. It's like the scene from Mad Max. Never seen it, but I've seen the GIF before where the guy like shuts on or opens up the water and then shuts it back off. Do not, my friends, become addicted to water. You will resent it to its absence. Todd will have a switch that just switches off college football in his commissioner's office. He'd just be that guy from Mad Max. Except instead of water, it's college football.
I like it.
An honor and a privilege.
Bean of the Latter Day says, Steve's assertion that ye shall be as gods is a lie, is unbiblical and refuted by God himself in the same chapter. The Lord said, behold, man has become one of us to know good and evil, and now lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat, so on and so forth. Buy, sell, or hold, you're using ye be like gods out of context.
What is he talking about?
I honestly don't know what he's talking about.
So we use that phrase multiple times when talking about worldview issues.
Mm-hmm.
The original kind of lie that a lot of people fall for is the original lie told by Lucifer. Ye shall be as God. We're taking that out of context. Buy, sell, or hold.
Sell. It's one of the most fundamental doctrines of biblical orthodoxy.
Well, isn't this guy a Latter-day Saint?
It's
isn't
the source
being of Latter-day, so I would assume so maybe.
That's
probably where
it's a source of the literal doctrine of redemption and the need for it. It's the source of what we call original sin.
Mormons differ a lot on this front.
That's
so
why
I guess that's where this argument is. And we're not going to solve that. So
no, we're not. But I think I think the Bible's very clear all throughout that is original sin and the source of the sinful condition of human beings. And then history is replete with approximately 7,000 recorded years of examples, including every day of Aaron's montage, that is also true when we watch it play out in the world that we live in.
Now, all that being said, still absolutely make me the god of college football, because I will heal the land.
He has not yet begun to insuffer you. Indeed, yes.
Okay, I think this needs some clearing up, because I took it a completely different way than both of you did.
Okay.
So the lie that we are articulating is not in this verse. It's in the preceding verse, where Lucifer says, ye shall be as gods, or some, depending on the translation, ye shall be as gods. Mm-hmm. What was the lie that Lucifer committed there as a lie of omission? Right. It was a half-truth.
Correct. Right.
He knew the way that they would be like gods, and it's the way that the Lord says in the verse that was pointed out there.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about when the Lord said in the actual true context of why they would be as gods, knowing good from evil. They lost their innocence.
Correct.
That's the way that I took it. So you're actually the one taking it out of context, not trying to throw this back in your face, but in terms of how we've used it consistently, how it lays out in Scripture in Genesis, we're actually using it consistently with the original verse, which I think is Genesis 3:5.
And listen, this would get us on, but if you're starting... If you come from a theological tradition that you can become a god, then I can see why you would interpret it this way. But you would get that interpretation because you think someone born about 1,700 years after the Bible was written, and about 3,000 years after these verses were written, because Moses wrote them in the Pentateuch probably sometime between 14 and 1600 BC, gave you that interpretation, but that has not been the interpretation throughout the entire history of Christendom, aside from that one individual's understanding of it, whether Catholic, Orthodox, or Protestant, throughout the entire historicity of the Christian church. It's been what Aaron said.
Next, we go to Below Elbow Guy, who says, we remember the dot-com bust, but the surviving internet companies rose to dominate the world in many more ways than just internet. AI companies will inevitably do the same, but again in ways we've yet to imagine. There's some cheer for you around this Christmas season.
Probably true. So
I fail to see how this could not be true.
Well,
that doesn't necessarily mean things will be worse. Okay. But I mean, when we left farms, when we left the agrarian societies at the end of the 19th century and the dawn of the 20th century, for more urban societies, for more manufacturing societies, for more corporate societies, was not some autonomy of the individual lost to belong to an assembly line compared to owning a parcel of land that had been worked for centuries within that family? Did you not lose some autonomy when you went to work in the assembly line?
Yes.
Were you, compared to a man and his land, were you not more of an automaton on one of the assembly lines than you were taking over your grandfather's farm from your grandfather, from your grandfather, from your grandfather? Was that not fundamentally true?
Yeah.
Okay. But do we now consider that, is anybody, we just view that now, in hindsight now. I'm sure people were freaking out about it at the time, but in hindsight now, we just view it as the next step in societal small p progress. Just, it was inevitable, which is inevitable that we were going to technologically advance beyond just a largely agrarian society. And then when we went from personal communication to mass communication, same thing. We went from mass communication to digital communication and digital society, same thing. You see where I'm going with this? This is inevitable. The debate is whether it's inherently worse than the previous iterations or stages, or will just be different. And I don't know the answer, and that's a very worthwhile debate, and I've got friends of mine on both sides of this. To me, what's not debatable is that this is inevitable. What's not inevitable is how to handle it and whether it will be fundamentally good or bad. But I can tell you this. Living in an agrarian society, did people who lived in agrarian societies go to hell?
Yes.
Yeah, lots of them did. Okay. Did people who lived in urban, spoke in the machine, assembly line driven societies go to heaven?
Sure.
Sure. In other words, was human sinfulness found in the agrarian society? Yes.
Yes.
Was human redemption found in the more corporate urban society? Yes.
The only question I have, and I'd like, why? And you might be right. Why do you think it's inevitable?
Because the technology's already been created. It's already being utilized. Even if we decided as a society we're not going to take part, literally every other industrialized nation in the world is going to do it anyway. And so there's just no, even if we didn't want to take part in this, and maybe we don't. I'm not even advocating we have to. But even if we don't, every other major industrialized nation, including the only nations that challenge us, and the one in particular that we still buy the vast majority of our goods from, China, will and already is. So it's going to impact us whether we are active participants or not.
So if that's your answer, and I think it's a reasonable answer, to boil that down, though, you're basically saying evil is inevitable.
Well, of course,
because you're talking about even if we
go back to the previous the submission.
That's an important distinction because a lot of people just say this because technology makes things easier and you can't stop that train. But if you boil it down like you did, you're basically saying even if we decide that it's more likely the odds are going to lead to a bad place than a good place. It's ultimately the thing that's really inevitable is evil. We're making a theological.
Yeah,
well, that's really important because most people say this stuff about technology. It's just like, why wouldn't you? Why technology just makes things easier.
Well, without a biblical worldview, there's no reason to ever ask why wouldn't you?
On
literally anything.
Well,
the only answer you would get outside of the authority of God and His Word, that would be a limiting principle. There's our term du jour here in the final month of the year. That would be a limiting principle. Would be, if it's not going to be God and His Word, it's going to be the concern of consequences. Right. So you may detest God and shake your fist at Him, and then decide, you know what, I'm not going to cheat on my wife because if I do, she's going to sue the hell out of me for alimony. I'll be publicly embarrassed. My kids will hate me. You see what I'm saying? But you have to. Nothing restrains human nature on its own, because of the previous question we answered. So when your species is literally bedeviled by the idea that it can be its own God, there is no restraining there is no automatic self-restraint. That's why self-restraint, by the way, is one of the fruits of the Spirit. There is no automatic self-restraint. It doesn't exist. It simply doesn't exist as a species. So we have to conjure up consequences that would provoke you to count the cost and restrain yourself. Because the cost of not doing so, according to whatever a societal standard is, would be so high you don't want to pay it.
So I think, but with the comfort class just generally argues like anything that makes life easier is fundamentally better.
Yeah, that's pagan utilitarianism.
I think that's
whatever causes the least amount of pain and the most amount of comfort is basically good. That's utilitarianism. That's Darwinian pagan descent of man ethics.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a Margaret Sanger speech from the 1920s. Yeah.
And since that's wrong, I think is it a reasonable Christian argument to you then that while everything you said about the past, present, agrarian, you can have saints and sinners both alike and you always will, do you think it's unreasonable to posit that the odds of being a sinner than a saint increase the more technology we have? It's a trend in that direction?
I would say yes, but you may not agree with the reason I would say why. And it's because it's the same reason why there's more sin in cities than there is in the country. When there's more people, you're going to have more sin. The more this kind of technology connects us in ways, and directly and more intimately in ways that even Marconi's radio that was revolutionary in the 1920s did not. You were still a passive participant in the technology. You see what I'm saying? You weren't communicating. When you turned the family radio on at night, you were listening to other people communicate to you, and you were a passive participant.
Right.
Your dad could not, when everybody went to bed, Your dad could not get up at 1 o'clock in the morning and go to Hook Up AM, okay, and talk to some, and have, radio sex with some chick, whose husband doesn't love her anymore in Seattle, 2,000 miles away.
You're making my point. The trend keeps going to an easier.
Whatever connects more human beings together creates more sin, because we are sinners. And so the more that we coagulate, the more that we conjoin, okay, the more sin you're always going to get. That's just the reality of the human condition. It's a force multiplier. Yeah.
See, this is why.
Which is also, by the way, why it's funny now, Christianity is considered the agrarian religion, but in its original inception, it's why Christianity went to the cities. One of the reasons why is because exactly what I just said. That's where that's where more of the sinners were. And it was the outlier, the island places, the countrysides that held on, that were still burning wicker men well into the 14th and 15th centuries. All right. The outlying places were the ones that were still holding on to the old paganism when Christianity was conquering the cities in its first millennia.
It's an interesting, we could go on.
Yes.
It's fascinating.
Next is Country Squire. Most interesting NFL event this year. The New York Giants field goal kicker whiffed on a ball and dug a ditch in the field. I don't know why, but we had about 4 or 5 different submissions along these lines. Did you see this? I didn't even watch the game. Didn't have it on.
I didn't even know this happened until I saw a headline about it on
Is it
X
Youngwei?
Youngwei Kim is the Falcons kicker. He kicks for them now? I didn't even know that.
I think it was Youngwei Koo just completely biffed and kicked the ground instead of the ball. Buy, sell, or hold, that's the most interesting thing that's happened in the NFL
It's not remotely interesting at all, which is why we are just so poorly wired by this game of football. Look at what titillates us. So
I have to agree. That's the most interesting thing.
Most people would argue that this season has not been incredibly interesting. It's been pretty
Well, I think if you're a fan of the Chiefs and the Lions, it's not been that interesting. I'll tell you that.
Yes, that's the only reason why I would say that is because I'm a Chiefs fan.
It's the main
capable of objection.
It's the main reason I would say it. I mean, I only care about my team, but yeah. I mean, I don't care about anybody else's team. It's only my own.
I thought football was beautiful on its own terms.
Oh, I don't disagree that it is, but in terms of, I mean, it's the most interesting thing to me every season is going to be what most directly affects my favorite team. That's just the reality of it.
That's why this thing becomes increasingly idolatrous. We think this is for us. And that's a child's view of things. It's not, it's supposed to be bigger. It's supposed to elevate the human condition.
I would argue,
it's not supposed to make us more selfish.
I would argue that if they understood that it was for us, they wouldn't make a lot of the decisions you don't like.
It isn't for us, though.
That's my point. If they went back to believing it was for us, they wouldn't make a lot of the decisions that you don't like.
Oh goodness, no.
Yeah, I totally disagree.
All right, moving on, going to Divine Spear. UAP disclosures will be used by the spirit of the age to unify the left.
Oh, Sal, you're underestimating how many people are going to be unified by this.
Yep, unfortunately.
They're going to be used to identify essentially everything other than the biblical right will be unified by this. You're way underestimating this.
Yeah,
you're way underestimating this.
I'm selling.
I mean, we all love Marco Rubio. He's a vocal proponent of this. He might be the next vice president of the United States. He's all over that Age of Disclosure documentary. That's the #1 best-selling new film on Amazon, the #1 website in the world right now. You guys some of you still want to believe our side is immune. Again, that's a talking point from 2005. Okay. Not true. Not true at all. Wish it were, but it's not. Go back to the conversation we had with Joel Berry yesterday. If I fundamentally agree with Joel's criticisms of Oron, would we have Oron on the show? No, we wouldn't. I mean, not as the guest as often as we have. Would we platform Oron as favorably as we have for the last 2 years if we fundamentally agreed with Joel about Oron in particular? No. But do I agree with his larger criticism of what he calls the pagan right? Yep. Yeah. That's right on the money. I don't think he's perfect in applying that standard, but I think that observation is cash money, homie. Yes.
So you're actually saying that
Anna Paulina Luna we were just discussing last hour, she's all over that documentary too. She's a big believer in this.
You're basically saying the COVID mindset that took over the left, certainly, and a certain conspiratorial-minded people on the right rejected it. I'm hearing you say that could actually be reversed.
Flip it, 100%.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, flip it. You bet. Someone will always rule, and something must always be worshipped.
Con Cowboy has this. Top truths of politics. We never see true justice. Assassinations are always mysterious. Wars are always being fought. Things are confusing on purpose. Power doesn't corrupt. Corruption loves power. And there's always at least one man in a dress.
I love it.
I'm selling.
I'm selling. That's way too black-pilled.
We never see true justice. You'll never see it if, with all due respect, with staying anonymous is not going to do it. I found true justice, but I fought for it. My own employer wanted me to die when I got arrested at the Des Moines Register. I fought and I won, and I came out clean on the other side. You can't. You're this level of fatalism amongst a very significant part of the right is you're guaranteeing you're going to end up there. I just don't play those reindeer games with myself.
See, I think if we're just talking about the realm of politics, I think this has largely historically been proven to be true because of going back to what we talked about before, the human condition. Now, the Christian response to that is what Todd said. But I also think the Christian response to that is we endure Good Friday for Resurrection Sunday. That is the Christian response to that. The Christian response is to look at situations that in the world system appear to be bleak and vantablack and despairing and to run to those places with light. It's not to ignore that they're bleak and black and despairing. It's to not accept that they must remain that way. But throughout the history of our species, what he says there is largely true about the political arena, particularly absent the Christian worldview. That's all it can be. It can't be any more. It cannot be any more. That's the best it can do. And you have to hope that it's your guy in the dress and it's your people doing the assassinations. That's pretty much what history has been outside of the biblical worldview.
Texas Bizzle is next. The multi-country immigration hold means nothing if you don't add Muslim Spain, Muslim France, Muslim UK, and Muslim Germany to the list. Sell means nothing. That's going too far, but I like where you're coming from.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out if I understood what he meant because it sounded like something I was supposed to buy. So, what do you think, Todd?
He's basically saying Europe is Islamic.
Oh, okay,
now,
then I buy. Okay, then I buy.
I think that's what he's saying. So you shouldn't have.
Yeah, I buy.
And the point that the people there, let's say if they're not Muslim now, if they're the ones who if they're the Brits who got mugged by reality, and Steve's made this point all the time about Californians who wow, this got weird. I'm gonna go move to Dallas, and now they're turning Dallas
into California.
So yes, that premise is not new to the show. So if that's what you're making, I'll buy it.
Buy, sell, or hold, we should rename the United Kingdom to the DPUK, kind of like the DPRK, but the DPUK. Did you see this Enoch Burke character?
Yeah.
He's going to spend Christmas in jail for contempt of court. Why is he held in contempt of court? Because he kept going back to his place of employment after they fired him for using the wrong pronouns.
Yeah, 100%.
DPUK.
I'm in. Bye.
Yep.
It's dead. We're the last outpost of Western civilization left. We're the last one.
All right.
We're all that remains.
How about some Christmas cheer now?
100%. Always up for that.
James Lester says, churches could theologically prepare their congregation by having an Advent service singing in this order, O come, Emmanuel, the Magnificat. Is that how you say it, Todd? What is it, Canticles of Mary?
Yeah.
Okay. O little town of Bethlehem. Come thou long expected Jesus.
Very underrated song, by the way.
Hark the herald angels sing. Joy to the World, and O Come All Ye Faithful. That's a great set list.
That is a very great set list. Yeah, I don't have a problem with any of that.
Yep.
100%. I'll buy. You bet.
Up.
Next, we go to Seth, who says, buy, sell, or hold, paying for a Blaze TV subscription to see if my buy, sell, or hold suggestion at least got picked in the overtime. I'm a hard buy on that.
I think I'm all the buys. In fact, Seth, may your house increase. May other people also decide that they should buy on that. Right now at blazetv.com/Deace, use the promo code Deace. Just $8 a month to see if your buy, sell, or hold submission gets picked every week. It's got to be worth at least $8 to you.
It's as good a reason as any.
I mean, at this, we could also do, we could just set it up that everybody that uses my last name, Deace, as the promo code, because we do log all that stuff here at the network. We just make it that, you guys get first dibs on every single buy, sell, or hold submission moving forward in 2026. What do you think?
I don't know if that helps or hurts Aaron on the sorting end.
That's a good point.
That'd be the only question. But
it depends on how many.
We're up to bribing you, basically.
I could be bribed.
100%. Yeah, we're going to bribe you. You bet.
Okay, there it is.
If it works. Yes.
Let's do one more real quick. Ethan McClellan says it's sometimes necessary to fire a coach, even though they aren't losing more than they win. For instance, the Steelers need to fire Mike Tomlin despite the longest active streak of non-losing seasons because the team needs a new leader.
As a general principle, I don't disagree with that. Things can get stale for sure. Okay. And I don't think NFL teams, because of the structure of the sport, the snake draft system, the salary cap and everything else, the thing about firing a coach, who will you get better, is not as much of a fear because you have fundamentals within the sport designed to create parity, right? I mean, there's a reason why the Lions are the only original franchise to never be in the Super Bowl. I mean, you have to try to be terrible for that long because of all the various mechanisms within the sport itself to level the playing field. So as a general rule, I don't disagree. And I don't even disagree about Mike Tomlin specifically. I think in college right now, it's a little bit different, as Penn State is finding out here on National Signing Day. So, but I'll buy as a general rule. What about you, Todd, real quick?
Also, firing Tomlin is insane.
I think he's got one playoff win in like 10 years, I think.
It's insane.
That's insane. Yeah. Okay. Daniel Horowitz is next. So here's a gross fact, and who doesn't want one of those for Christmas? Traditional bed sheets can hold more bacteria than a toilet seat. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Yeah, not exactly where you want to lay your face at night. Thankfully, though, there's Miracle Made. Their bedding is designed to fight bacteria, stay cleaner longer, with silver-infused fabrics that prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, and I think even more importantly, because I think if you gave me a choice, just speaking for me personally, unseen bacteria on your sheets, or you're sweating to the oldies in bed, I'm probably taking give me the thermoregulating. I can't see the bacteria. I can see the sweat. Because that same silver-infused fabric inspired by NASA, that same fabric that keeps those things clean, also helps your body to regulate your temperature for the best sleep all night long. And I know this because these have been the sheets on our bed now for going on 3 years. And they just feel good, if not better, than sheets that you'll find at really nice hotels. I can verify that too. In this line of work, I've had people get me some very nice hotel rooms, and I've not yet found a pair of sheets that I liked more than Miracle Made. They're outstanding. So upgrade your sleep or give the gift of better rest to somebody that you care about by going to trymiracle.com/Deace and get your Miracle Made sheets today. You'll save over 40% when you do. And if you use the promo code Deace, you're going to get an extra 20% off plus a free 3-piece towel set. They make an amazing gift, and with a 30-day money-back guarantee, there's no risk. trymiracle.com/Deace. Use the code Deace at checkout. That's trymiracle.com/Deace. Use the code Deace at checkout. No Daniel, eh?
Don't see him.
Well, that is odd. I just texted him. I hope he's okay.
I don't think I got any message.
Okay. Well, I guess we continue on with buy, sell, or hold there.
Bonus, buy, sell, hold. Before bonus, buy, sell, hold?
There may, I mean, so overtime may suck today.
Blown.
Indeed. That might be it. We'll see. Go ahead.
Let me advance here to the end. Ryan has this. It is systematically or systemically impossible to fix the $40 trillion debt issue because we have elections every 2 years, every 4 for POTUS. Any reform to address this is an immediate vote killer. Western liberal democracy does not permit long-term reform that induces short-term pain.
Agree with everything except the last sentence. And this takes us full circle to the the second submission. The human condition does not allow you long-term focus for short-term pain. I believe that's how he worded it, Aaron. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. The human condition doesn't allow this. Again, I can't say this enough. There's only 2 reasons as a species we will do the right thing. Fear of God or fear of our fellow man. Even in pagan honor cultures, those are based on fear of man. By what standard would we decide that you have dishonored yourself? By what standard would we decide that you dishonored your clan, your family, your tribe? By this standard set by your fellow men. And the fear of consequences therein for doing so. We will not, as a species, and I cannot stress and emphasize this enough, as a species, we will not consistently do the right thing without one of 2 things: the Holy Spirit or incentivization otherwise. Sometimes that's referred to as consequences. Without that, without those 2 things, without the hope of glory, Christ in you. Why in the Old Testament were the Jews told to make all these sacrifices and celebrate all of these festivals? To demonstrate how utterly and totally and completely impossible it is to atone for yourself, to restrain yourself. Certain individuals were given anointings. Sometimes in the Old Testament, the wording is used as the Spirit of the Lord was upon him. So individuals, prophets, kings, in some cases, like David, were given the Holy Spirit, and you see them act in ways when they have it, contrary to their craven human nature. But corporately, the people were not given this. And it was not given corporately until Pentecost. This is what Jesus meant with, I'll send the helper. That's who he's talking about. He's talking about the Holy Spirit. So without that, you cannot have the self-restraint or self-control. It's hard enough in our flesh when we have the Holy Spirit to not desire bad things still, to not want bad things still. It's hard enough when we have that. It is undeniably impossible when we don't. We cannot do it. This is the old William Penn line. If men were angels, they wouldn't need government. And so it is a governing structure. And why Paul says in Romans 13, the purpose of government, why God allows power to be accrued into human hands at that level on this planet, given the sinful human condition, is to punish evildoers, to be an avenging angel against evil. So barring the Holy Spirit, the hope of glory, Christ in us, living through us and us being sufficiently surrendered to that so that our desires change now. And how we see things and the things we seek change. That's what it means to be born again. That's literally what it means. It's a euphemism for that. Without that, we cannot restrain ourselves. It's not a question of we will not, we can't. It's impossible. I would have loved to fly. I'd leap tall buildings in a single bound if I could. It's not that I won't fly, it's that I cannot. And so therefore, the only other presence that provokes restraint from outside of us, the only other presence that provokes restraint comes from outside of us, and it has to be societal consequences. We cannot do it within us without the Holy Spirit in us doing it through us. So if we don't have that, and throughout history, most of humanity has not. Pentecost was not until the first century. So conservatively, we had 5,000 years of recorded human history where corporately people did not have the Holy Spirit. And then now, what are there, about 1 billion Christians in the world? Is that the right number? Is it 2 billion, something like that?
It's 2, right?
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So on an 8 billion person planet right now? So that's what? 20%?
Mm-hmm.
20% of the planet has the Holy Spirit, which means the other 80% doesn't. So there must be societal consequences. Let me make it very practical. Why would they, what would be the incentive, barring the Holy Spirit, for them to stop producing and promoting things and provoking you to take them, substances that would kill you? Because they're profiting off of it. So if they're not going to do it prophetically, and they won't, then the profit, the other profit, the way we spell it, that motivation needs to be taken away, right? So that they would stop. You either are a Christian culture or you're a consequence culture. And there's no in between. And any attempts at in between are chaos culture, which is where we live today. Your thoughts on that?
I'm selling. I mean, even especially Christians these days, they're too fatalistic and pessimistic about sin ruling over the world and thus making the kinds of things you're talking about inevitable. To use it in a different way than Steve uses it, but when Steve talks about the worry of going over the line in defense of truth, but Steve rightly pointed out just earlier this week, we aren't even close to that. We aren't anywhere close right now as those allegedly 2 billion Christians, not because the number isn't there in terms of self-identification, but in terms of how they're living, to offer the world an alternative currently. We just aren't even trying. So I just don't accept the level of fatalism that way too many Christians have about this. Is just, a road to nowhere. How hard are we even trying at the moment? What, Matthew 28 or not? I guess we really don't know what the Great Commission is.
What are your thoughts on what we just said, Aaron?
Kind of what Todd said. It doesn't, I think Ryan's critique of Western liberal democracy is right on the money,
sure,
but that's a symptom, not a cause.
Right, exactly.
That's a symptom of Christendom not holding up its mantle, taking up its mantle, and being the pillar that it should be. It's a symptom, not a cause. So
we keep, as Christians, doing what happened. We keep saying we want a king, when God said that, and the king is any number of idols. We just won't smash them. We want them more. We as a church, we aren't leading. As men, we aren't leading. We're not in any way, shape, or form. We are just we are. It's the time of the judges. The church is constantly saying, "I want to do what's right in my eyes. Why can't I have fun?" I mean,
Yeah, that's why I reject the last line. There's no form of government that inherently leads to what you're saying. The human condition does. The human condition does it. Odds a king gets overthrown with the message of we're going to be prosperous all the time, or we're going to be in pain for a while to be prosperous later. In what scenario is it likely a king faces a revolution, do you think?
We're going to be in pain.
Of course. Of course. Of course. So there is no form of government. Well, there's one exception, I would say. Marxism inherently, because it's a manifestation of a specific ideology that is absolutely satanic. I would say that uniquely is as a system of government, a corrupting influence. Aside from that, then, the corrupting influence is the people, not the system. And you have to create systems that acknowledge the corruption of the people. You have a monarchy, you have a corruption of one person you got to deal with, or more likely, the handfuls of people in his court that have the most influence over him. In our form of government, you have to deal with the corruption of the masses. But you can also say that, if you have a critical mass of people that aren't corrupted by their sin, to the degree that those without the Holy Spirit are, you can push back more effectively on that corruption. But then some would say, what's more likely? I could get a righteous entire society or a righteous singular king. The reason why I don't get into those debates, and they're all over X right now, and that's what a lot of the whole dissident woke right kind of stuff is, because these aren't questions of math and systems. They're questions of the spiritual condition of the people. And in the last generation, we saw the Christian church in America capitulate to the masses. Have there been eras of the Christian church in the past where it capitulated to the monarch?
Sure.
100%. What's the common denominator there? The church capitulating, whether it's to the masses, in the secret democracy, or the monarch. It's the Christian church. So I'd be much more concerned about ecclesiastical systems than I would be political systems. Which is why I just don't get into too many of those debates. Now, if you want to argue like Joel did yesterday, that monarchy is not inherently unbiblical, but it's inherently un-American, well, historically, he's true. He's 100% true about that. Yeah. Don't disagree with that. I mean, it's the fundamental doctrine of the country. But, you know what? Let's put that to the test right here before we get out of here, just out of curiosity. If you guys could make Ron DeSantis king of Florida, would you do it?
King of Florida? King. You mean ruler of Florida until he dies?
Yes, except instead of being term limited, instead of having Ron DeSantis term limited, would you rather have him be king of Florida? If those are your two choices, which one would you choose?
At this point in history, because it's an experiment with one among many, I would say yes.
Make him king?
Sure.
See, to me, but what's the operative phrase of your answer at this point in history?
Yeah.
50 years ago, would you have given that answer?
No.
100 years ago?
No.
150 years ago?
Well, I
mean, you're doing the math to the founding of the country, which you get what I'm getting at, okay? Yes. Because at this point was your answer.
Right.
Yeah. Aaron, what about you?
If at this point in history there were 2 or 3 or 4 other Ron DeSantises, I would say no. Are there 2 or 3 or 4 other Ron DeSantises? No. So the answer is yes.
Yeah. So
I mean, you're asking, do I have any problem with states voting right now to make governors for life? No, I think that's prudent. If you get the right
depends on the governor.
Well, yeah, but if I get the choice as a state, you get to too, and then we to his point, if he wants to get rid of that cycle, Yeah, that's how we
then
get rid of it.
people come back and
say... So my
say...
point is, it's not inevitable. We have choices.
Yes. People come back and say, well, he could get corrupted too with that amount of power, and they're right about that.
Yes, they are.
Okay? Just like, though, the people of Florida could be just easily corrupted with him gone, right? We could all get corrupted. That's why I'm not married to systems. I'm married to applying the Word of God to the particular situation. And in the end, if you serve systems, then you're neglecting what Jesus meant when he said the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. Back at it again tomorrow, noon to 2 Eastern, right after Glenn Beck, right here on Blaze TV. Until then, go hard, Romans 8:28.